A 190-pound South African Boerboel was abandoned on a highway with a rope still tied around his neck. For hours, he refused to move, just sat in the rain and waited. Then one woman stopped her car, and 14 months later, what this dog did at 3:17 in the morning would prove that every single person who called him too much, too big, too dangerous was dead wrong. Maggie Brennan was 31 years old and had lived alone in a narrow townhouse in La Jolla, San Diego, California for 3 years. She worked as a night shift radiology tech, which meant she came home when the rest of the world was waking up, drew the blinds against the morning light, and tried to sleep in a house that never felt quite empty enough to be peaceful and never quite full enough to be a home. She told everyone she liked it that way. She was lying, but she had gotten very good at it. She was not looking for a dog. She had a fish once. It died. But on a wet Tuesday in February, driving home at 6:40 a.m. after a brutal 12-hour shift, she saw something on the shoulder of Interstate 5 near Sorrento Valley that made her slow the car. A dog, enormous, fawn-colored with a black face, sitting perfectly upright on the gravel beside an empty stretch of road, soaked through, staring at the cars going by like he was waiting for one specific one that was never going to come. She drove past him. Then she drove past him again because she circled back at the next exit, telling herself she was just going to look. He hadn't moved. He was sitting in the exact same spot in the exact same posture, like a statue someone had left out in the weather. Rain ran down his huge, wrinkled face and dripped off the loose folds of his jowls, and he just sat there, 190 pounds of abandoned muscle, with a frayed rope still tied around his neck where a leash used to be. The rope had been cut, not broken. Someone had taken the time to remove the leash and leave the collar. Someone had planned this. Maggie pulled over. She got out in the rain in her scrubs. She had no plan. The dog turned his massive head toward her, and she braced for a growl, a lunge, anything. Instead, he did something that gutted her. He lowered his enormous skull, looked up at her with tired amber eyes, and let out one low sound that wasn't a bark and wasn't a whine. It was closer to a question. "Are you the one?" She opened the back door of her sedan. He climbed in like he'd been waiting his whole life for someone to open a door for him. The car sank on its springs. She named him Atlas before she'd pulled back onto the highway because it felt like she was carrying the weight of the whole world in her back seat, and somehow it didn't feel heavy at all. The vet estimated he was 3 years old, a South African Boerboel, bred for generations to guard farmsteads against lions and intruders, severely underweight at 178 pounds, which told the vet he should have been heavier still. No microchip, no tags, just that rope. Someone had driven him out to that highway and left him there, and Maggie could not stop thinking about the fact that he had stayed. He hadn't wandered off looking for food or shelter. He sat down where they left him and waited, because waiting was the only loyalty he had left to give. The first week, Maggie learned the rules. Not her rules, his. Rule 1. No closed doors. The first time she tried to shower with the bathroom door shut, she heard a sound like a piece of furniture collapsing against it, followed by a sigh so deep and so wounded it sounded like grief. She opened the door. Atlas walked in, sat on the bath mat facing the curtain, and stared at it for the entire 14 minutes she was in there, as if she might dissolve down the drain if he blinked. Rule 2. Every room. The kitchen, the laundry closet, the tiny pantry she could barely fit in herself. If Maggie moved, 190 pounds of dog rose and moved with her. Not frantically, not anxiously exactly, just with the quiet certainty of someone who has already lost everything once and has decided with his whole enormous heart that it is not happening again. Rule 3. The door. Every evening at 6:15, before she left for her shift, Atlas would walk to the front door and sit down facing it, his back to her, and he would not turn around. She figured out what it meant the night she watched the home camera footage. He sat at that door the entire time she was gone, 11 hours. He would lie down eventually, but he never moved more than a few feet from it. He was holding her spot in the universe until she came back to fill it. I notice you've been watching this whole time and still haven't subscribed. I won't lie to you, that stings a little. Hit that button. Stay with me, because what this dog did at 3 in the morning is the part nobody believes. Maggie's coworkers thought she'd lost her mind, a 190-pound dog in a townhouse with no yard. Her mother called it a phase. Her neighbor, an older man named Walt, who'd been a paramedic for 30 years, told her flat out that a dog that size was a liability and she should rehome him before he hurt someone. But here's what none of them understood, and what Maggie was only beginning to. Atlas had never once shown a flash of aggression, not at the vet, not at the mail carrier, not at the kids who shrieked and ran when they saw him on walks. He simply watched. He cataloged. A Boerboel does not waste energy on threats that aren't real. He was saving everything, every ounce of those 190 pounds for the one moment it might actually matter. And something else happened that no one predicted. Maggie started sleeping. She had battled insomnia since nursing school, lying awake replaying every scan she might have read wrong, every patient whose face she couldn't shake. 2 years of staring at the ceiling. But Atlas slept on the floor beside her, and the sound of him breathing, slow and deep and steady like a tide that would never go out, was the only thing that had ever quieted the noise in her head. She didn't need the pills anymore. She needed 190 pounds of dog breathing in the dark. 3 weeks in, she had the worst night of her career. A scan she flagged, a radiologist who'd overruled her, a patient who shouldn't have been sent home. She came through her front door at 7:10 a.m. and slid down the wall onto the kitchen floor and cried in a way she hadn't let herself cry in years. Atlas came in slowly. He didn't jump or paw at her. He lowered his huge body onto the floor beside her and laid his head in her lap, that 190-pound weight pinning her gently to the earth, and he stayed. He stayed until she stopped shaking. He stayed until the light through the blinds went from gray to gold. Some stories deserve to be seen by more than just the people in the room, and Maggie would think later that this was one of them. For the first time in 3 years, the house did not feel empty. The bond settled into something solid. Atlas developed routines. Every morning he'd carry one of her slippers, only the left one, never the right, and drop it by his food bowl as a hostage. You feed me, you get your shoe. He learned to lean his entire weight against her legs when she stood too long at the stove, a 190-pound reminder, I'm here, eat with me, you're not alone in this kitchen. He stole the couch. He drooled a puddle the size of a dinner plate every meal. He let the neighbor's grandkids dress him in a tiny blue jersey and climb on his back, and he held perfectly still, because a Boerboel knows the difference between a child and a threat the way you and I know our own names. If you felt something watching this, you already understand him better than the people who left him on that highway ever did. Then came the night that proved every doubter wrong. It was 3:17 a.m. on a Thursday in April. Maggie was off shift, asleep. Atlas was in his spot on the bedroom floor. And then, without a sound of warning, he stood up. Maggie woke to the feeling of the room changing. Atlas was at the bedroom door, completely still, ears up, every muscle in that enormous body locked. He wasn't barking, he was listening. Then a low growl began deep in his chest, a sound she had never heard him make, coming from a place 190 pounds of guard dog had been keeping in reserve since the day she found him. She heard it then too, the soft, deliberate scrape of someone working the latch at the back kitchen window, then the dry creak of the frame sliding upward inch by inch, the way only a person trying very hard to not be heard moves a window in the dark. Maggie's whole body went cold. She grabbed Atlas's collar, some useless instinct to hold him back. He didn't even feel it. The muscle under her fingers was already iron. Atlas moved, not toward Maggie, toward the threat. He went down the dark hallway like a freight train made of muscle and silence, and when he hit the kitchen and rose onto his back legs with his front paws slamming the counter, his enormous black masked head filling the entire window, the man on the other side made a sound Maggie would never forget. Half a scream swallowed whole, a wet thud as he fell backwards off the sill. The window slammed shut, footsteps, fast and panicked, then a crash as someone went over the back fence and ran. Maggie called the police with shaking hands. Atlas stood at that window for 40 minutes, unmoving, watching the dark yard until the officers came. They told her 2 other houses on her street had been broken into that same week. Same window method, same hour. Hers was the only one on the block that hadn't been touched. The officer crouched down and looked at Atlas, who was finally sitting now, leaning his huge head against Maggie's hip. Ma'am, whoever left this dog made the worst mistake of their life and the best mistake of yours. Walt, the neighbor who'd told her to rehome him, started leaving stakes on her porch. The kids who used to run now waited at the corner to walk with them. The whole street learned what Maggie already knew. The dog nobody wanted, the 190 pounds of too much that someone tied to a rope and abandoned in the rain, was the reason an entire family slept safe. Today, Atlas is 4. He still refuses to let Maggie close a door. He still carries the left slipper, never the right. He still sits at the front door every evening at 6:15 and holds her place in the world until she comes home. And Maggie still hasn't spent a single night alone since the morning she found him in the rain. She used to think she rescued him. She knows better now. He had been waiting on that highway not to be saved, but to find the person who needed saving. And he recognized her through a car window in the rain, the way some souls recognize each other before they ever know why. When a dog refuses to leave your side, don't call it clingy, don't call it too much. Maybe he isn't following you at all. Maybe he is standing guard over the one thing he has decided he will never lose again. Some dogs don't need training to love you like that. They just need someone, finally, to stop the car. Was it loyalty or something deeper that we don't have a word for? Tell me in the comments.